Welcome back to Society Case Files. My name is Robert, and today I want to just do a quick update on my restart of Dune Awakening. If you like this kind of content and you want to see more, please subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. Otherwise, I'm going to dive right in. So, a while back, I did a stream where I started Dune Awakening over from scratch. I paid for a private server, and I just went through it and showed the first 4 hours of me basically going from complete noob to getting past the introduction zone, which is effectively the southern portion of Haga Basin. I basically established a base near Anvil, and then that was pretty much where I stopped. So I have played considerably more since then, and I've managed to get very close to where I was on the live server. In some ways, I'm ahead, depending on how you look at it, but it has been very interesting knowing exactly what you're doing. Makes a huge difference, of course. I mean, that goes without saying. But in this case, it's really about the efficiencies. There's a lot of trial and error the first time. There's a lot of nerves. You're afraid to cross the desert with your bike, so you go the long way. You don't use the buggy the right way because you're afraid of, running into a hazard or whatever. You become a lot more brazen once you've played a lot and you really understand the systems. Like messing around with worms in order to get spice sands, or figuring out exactly where to get flower sand. Despite my funny video about getting flower sand, it's not that big of a deal. There's plenty of places to find it where the worms won't be summoned to collect as much as you possibly want. And with that in mind, the grind itself is also a lot easier. You just know that you need a certain amount of something, so you just go get it. And you don't really mess around. You're not worried because you know where all the bad guys are. You know how to deal with them if they show up. And you also are a little bit more aware that dying doesn't necessarily cause you that big of a deal. You can always get your stuff back. You can always handle it. There's very little in the game you can't replace. But playing on a private server has afforded me a whole lot of really cool things. The first thing I would have to say is the fact that the game really does feel like the lore intends it to. When your character at the very beginning, while you're creating them, is talking to the Reverend Mother, you get the sense that you're kind of one of the only people who's done this. And that, if you go through the story, you learn a lot about that. But when you get to the surface and you start playing on the live servers, there's neighborhoods everywhere. There's bases all over the place. Practically anywhere that you go, you're going to see someone has built there. And while that is kind of cool to feel like there's a sense of community, it also does cut into the sense that you are a sort of chosen one type person. Maybe that's not really the intention, is to feel that way. But when you play on a private server and it's you and maybe a couple of friends, most of the map remains clear, obviously. And it's just really cool. There's some downsides. You can't just run into some places and find out that they've been taken care of and then just grab the loot. You do have to fight everything, no matter where you go. It will be there, ready to go. But in another way, that's kind of nice because you're getting the experience points for taking down enemies and that sort of thing. In the live server, I was 171st level, and in this private server, I just broke 100th level today. And I have now been to the deep desert as well. Long before I even set foot in it with my other character, I have gone down and flown around. And this is probably where the private server differs the most from other types of play in Dune. Because while, yes, there are 20 sieges attached to the deep desert in the private server, these are things that are paid for by a handful of people each. They're not going to be completely full like the live servers are, where you're going to get 40, 50, whatever, 100 people who have access to the deep desert. Even with the 20 sieges finally available, I went there today and there was a single person hanging out somewhere in the desert, and they were just farming the Imperial testing stations. I was able to fly around and not see a single base in the E squares, which is, as you know, if you've been there, generally neighborhood central. Like, it's hard to find a place to put down a base in that area because it's the very edge of the PvE zone before you get into PvP stuff. Well, obviously, this deep desert, because it is brand new as well, the server, they just opened this roleplay server when I got it, not even a week ago. So they haven't really had a time to fill it up. And the people who have paid for the private servers just haven't played as much as I have, probably, I'm guessing, because I played way too much. And so that means that they haven't been to the deep desert to start establishing bases and do all the stuff that you see in the live server. In other words, when you get to the deep desert on a private server, it is as close to totally dead and all yours as it probably can get. I can't speak for some of the others, obviously. Maybe a hardcore server is different. Maybe some of the private servers that started when the game first came out are a lot more full. But as far as this one is concerned, and it is a role play server, so especially designed for people who are not interested in things like the taxation or even the sandstorms, you can shut them off. I didn't, because I think they're kind of fun. It's a nice little obstacle to deal with. And I also left on taxation too, and that's neither here nor there. But in the role play server, you can shut those things down. You can also shut down the security zones. So when you're running around in Haga Basin, there are still a few places that can be PvP, mostly the downed spaceships. When you turn off the security zones, those remain PvE. You don't get to fight each other. Not that, if it's your private server, I guess you could be inviting people that are part of your stream or something, and they might be crazy. But, if it's your buddies, the chances are good that they're not going to go out of the way to kill you. But regardless, the deep desert, once I got there the first time earlier today, I flew in, I said hello, nobody said anything. And then I was kind of heading north. It's north. I always get confused. I'm heading north into the area where you're going to find titanium and all that good stuff. And I finally say, is there anybody even here? And this guy says, yeah, I'm here. I'm just farming some blueprints. And we chatted for a good half hour. He's playing with his wife and a buddy on their server. So basically, there's a whole siege with roughly 3 people. My siege is me and 2 friends, so another 3 people that are attaching to this one deep desert. So that is a potential of 6 people. And out of 20, who knows how many of those servers don't even have people who are as serious as we are. I mean, in a lot of ways, a private server affords you the benefit of being able to play much more casually, because you don't have to worry about sharing resources or losing out on really great spots. My friends were able to build their bases literally right on the doorstep of Anvil. I mean, you walk out the door and turn to the left, and there they are. They have 2 bases right there. You couldn't have done that on the live server, because people would have already had that. And the same goes with all over the place. Anywhere that was a really great spot was already taken. And so buying your private server, you do have the advantage of basically your pick of what you want to do and where you want to go. And I think that's just kind of fun. I can understand losing out on a little bit of sense of community. There's a few nice things in the live server that you don't get. For example, I've been out flying around and found myself in a sandstorm and been able to take shelter in someone's base that they kindly opened up for people, or left a big section that you can go land in. That's really cool. You don't have that here unless you do it yourself. And you could have your buddies build random stuff in different parts of the map that you might get stuck in. But for the most part, you're kind of on your own. And, one of the really neat things is to see the creativity of other people. However, I'm good with just going to YouTube and checking out people's awesome bases that they share on there. I learned a lot. Even this time around, I didn't realize that there was so much of the shoal area that is not radiated that you can get to. So it made running for the jasmium crystals a lot easier. I was able to run around in the caves because I finally figured out how to use the stupid radiation suit. I don't know why I had a mental block about that. And I was able to just build kind of leisurely, and I didn't have to worry about being inconsiderate and taking up a massive chunk of desert area that, people might use as a thoroughfare. I could build there without worrying that people would be upset. And it afforded me the opportunity to try one of Creative Builder's builds. I built his Thopter Tower with a few modifications, mostly because I couldn't put a pentashield in front of the hangars. I will link to Creative Builder's site, YouTube channel here on this description, because if you want to see some really neat builds, they've got a bunch of them. I I really liked it. It was aesthetically pleasing and it was super fun to have for quite a while. But ultimately, the reason that I tore it down and built a new base is because it was very inconvenient to basically access all of the things I needed to be doing and then run up and use my Thopter. Basically, the way it worked out is that I had to have all my fabricators and refineries down in sort of a ground level thing, and then you'd have to run up to the top to get to your Thopter. So if you heard an explosion and you knew that was a spice blow and you wanted to do it quick, you had to run up, get to your ship, fly out there, and it wasn't as convenient to run up those stairs in time to see the spice bloom and find out exactly where it was. Now, I kind of have an idea of where most of them are at this point, so it wasn't a huge deal, but it did get a little tiring having to get all the way up there and down. And the way that Creative Builders does it is they have ladders, and that's cool, but I hate ladders because they're really slow to get up. So I created a spiral staircase that went all the way up to the top. And while that is also cool, it was, again, inconvenient to have to run all the way up there. So I tore it down. I built a new base that was a lot more succinct. It was a little bit more compact. Everything is in one place. It's much easier to get to. And then there's a single stairway that goes up to the Thopter platform. And then the garage is right in the other room. So all around a lot easier. It's still quite big. It does use the multiple additional stakes to grow your base all around. But it's a lot more manageable and usable. And I still think it's kind of aesthetic. I've got some shots of it here on the screen. But all around, I think that just doing that kind of thing, being able to just build whatever base you want and not worry about being in the way or causing trouble, it's a lot of fun and it's a great convenience. Now, is it worth paying the fee? Well, I paid more for World of Warcraft than I do for this. And if I pay for it for a longer period of time, I pay even less. So yeah, I think that ultimately it is. The problem, of course, is that as soon as you stop paying, all your progress is gone. It's not like on the live server where it's going to be saved if you take a break. If you stop, they delete your stuff and you're done. There's not a, hey, I'm going to be unavailable for a while. Can I just give you a couple bucks to keep it saved? No, you're done. It's full price or nothing. And considering video games, let's be really honest, a lot of people, even when you're playing with friends, move on. They will every time. There's always a good time to move on because you found something else. Even another game like this might come out. And despite the fact that there are promised updates and more stories coming and everything else, chances are good that at some point in the future, everything that I've done on this private server will be gone. And that kind of sucks. I was leery of doing this when the game first came out because I thought of this back then, that at some point I'd want to take a break and then I'd just be stuck either paying for it or losing all my progress. Is it that big of a deal? Yeah, in some ways it is because it does take several hours to get back up to that point. The good news for me is that I do have a character on the live server that's really high level and has done literally everything as far as the story, all of the professions. I haven't done all the story and professions in the private server yet. I've only done enough to get things like the death still. So on the live server, I could probably hop back in and be up and running in not even a day if I took a break. But obviously, if I take a break and stop paying for the private server, it's gone. What I'm hopeful for is that my friends will expand out. Maybe a few of them will get interested and I could get up to 6 people. And then at some point we could all split it. And then it would only be like $4 or $5 and we could just pay for like a year or something in advance and always have it there and just know that it's not going away. And as long as we keep the fuel up on our bases, then nothing's going to happen. We don't even have to worry about taxation. We can just shut that off. So all around, there are some advantages. And of course, the biggest disadvantage is the one I just said, that if you stop, you're done. It's all over. And, but beyond that, I would say that the private server has been a great investment and I've had a lot of fun with it. If you are frustrated with the way that the game works now with all the people running around in Haga Basin, if it feels too crowded, if the deep desert is too tough, I can tell you that I did do some research. I went on to the different community groups and I saw some of the other 2 private server groups, X Realms and Nostrato, talking about their services as well. And they have stated that they have many reports of people saying that their deep desert is really chill. It's just a place that people go and they can farm. They don't have to worry about being attacked. I haven't seen anybody talking about gank squads in private servers so much because, I mean, let's be honest. Most people paying for a private server are trying to avoid gank squads. They're not hoping that they're going to encounter a bunch of randos out in the deep desert that they can gank on a private server. They need to stay on the live server where they've got victims, because these private servers are going to have real slim pickings. I mean, even if half the people paying for those servers makes it out to the deep desert, and let's say they all do it at the same time, we're only talking a grand total of possibly 20 to 30 people. And that's not that many. And I don't even really think we'd see them all at the same time. I think it would be a miracle to see more than 10 out there at a time. So if you're looking to cause trouble and grief people, private servers aren't the way to go. Even though you might think, oh, this is going to be awesome. They're going to be totally unsuspecting and I'm going to go out there and cause trouble. But you're not going to have a whole guild do that. You're going to have a whole bunch of guys do that just for the maybe 2 or 3 people that they wax. It's just not worth it. So the chances are very, very, very good that you're not going to encounter that type of behavior. Even if somebody wants to engage in it, they're going to be in the minority. They're not going to have 4 or 5 Thopters full of rockets to just take you down. It'd probably be 1 or 2 at most. And again, I would be very, very surprised. So anyway, there is that to consider. As far as other things go, I can say that, you know, being able to have that stuff, getting my hands on plenty of titanium for the first time since I played the game has been game changing. It's just been awesome. I just came back with a full assault Thopter with plenty of titanium and stithium and spice to really get me pretty far. I'm going to have all the advanced refineries fairly quickly. I know that some people are like, well, what's the point? What is the point once you get there? Well, there's a lot of stuff to do. You know, there's the blueprints to sticker book. You could get those. You can go hunt them down. We know that more is coming. They've already talked about a big update. We know that they're going to come out with more content, more player versus environment stuff, more things to do. So as we collect these things and build our arsenals, then we're just going to be more prepared for whatever they come out with. And there's even a slot on the character sheet that's still open that we can't put anything in. So who knows what they've got in store for that. All around, I know they're going to redo or at least beef up the lands rod. So we've got those things to look forward to. And I think there's plenty for us to be excited about and prepare for. Sort of like playing an MMO where you're going to get the best gear you can so that you have a good chance at handling the new content before you get the stuff that makes your old stuff look like crap. I think it'll be very similar in Dune. You know, the tier 6 stuff is going to be great for now, but they're going to come out with more. It's not like this is the finite list. And I think that they've got a lot in store. We need to give them some credit. The game has literally been out for a month and 10 days at this point of me recording this video. So we've got tons of time for them to continue to develop all kinds of systems and give us plenty to do. And a private server is a fantastic way to approach that stuff without fear of reprisal from your fellow players, without having to compete for resources, and ultimately just having a more casual time with this game, which could be very hardcore if you let it. But anyway, let me know what you think. Have you played on a private server? Would you consider doing so? Let me know in the comments and we'll talk about it. This is Robert with Society Case Files signing off.